Hello, welcome to episode 3 of The Balanced Mind, where Richard and I talk about the human side of being an accountant, where what you do really matters, and what matters is really you. Hey, so today then, Richard, we're talking systems and processes, aren't we?
We are. Hello, everybody. Yeah, on the basis that we have a call full of accountants and bookkeepers here, you will all have relaxed because we're talking about systems and processes, and that's our world. That's what accountants, bookkeepers do really well. It's what we're trained to do. It's how we think, and remember that line because that's what we're certainly going to come back to. But it's within our comfort zone. And those of you who have listened to these podcasts so far, watched these podcasts so far, will know that we like to push around your comfort zones, and so you can relax a little bit, and then we'll start to push you towards the edge of it. I've always in this context, I've always believed that there are two fundamental types of accountant, and I say that because I'm one type, and Rowena, my wife, she's the other type. And we've used that combination very successfully in business for many, many years. Those two types of accountants, on the one hand, let's call it the Rowena type. It's the accountant who typically wanted to be an accountant for a start off. You wanted to be an accountant from the age of 13, who loves the systems, the processes, the checklists, the clarity, the right and wrong that can come with being an accountant. So from a business perspective, that's always been awesome for our businesses, because when it comes to developing those systems and processes, both the production ones, the communication ones, the client interaction, whatever they may be, we have many, many systems and processes in our firms, don't we? But also, then putting in place the quality control, the checklists, developing the team to fit those, all of what I would call the operational side of the business. You have that sort of accountant, the accountant who wants to be really, really good at the technical side of the job, knows it inside out. That's accountant number one, and we need them. And then we have accountant number two, and accountant number two especially needs accountant number one, because accountant number two, I'm not saying that side of things doesn't interest us. I've had a career in audit, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. I'm competent at my tax. I'm competent at I take the professional side of my job very, very seriously. But I come alive when I'm in front of the client, or when I'm thinking about what I can do with my own business. How can we develop new services? How can we engage with clients better? How can we get the team to be more enthused? That's the sort of stuff. So almost like in simplified terms, you've got the technical, the system and process side of the job, and you've got the human side of the job. And I've always said to Rowena that if we were both the same, it wouldn't work. If we were both the same as me, we would have a business that shone light and bright for a period of time, and then went bust. And if we were both like Rowena, we would have a business that was technically really competent, doing a very good job, but actually which struggled to grow. So I think you need that mix, and as a part, that's one of the challenges that sole practitioners have. And so thinking about where it comes in as your team is important.
A good
But I've
point,
always been
actually.
fortunate. Yeah, it absolutely is. We do quite often. If we are growing our team based on CVs, then we can end up with an imbalance. Because it's all about qualifications and years of experience and all the rest of it, and yet we are a people business. So it's that combination matters. But the systems and processes is how we do what we do, and with the digital transformation of our industry and the world in general, we are now finding it easier to improve those systems and processes, to speed them up, to make them far more efficient. When we're looking at what the compliance challenges are for accountants, for instance, I don't buy into the death of compliance. There will always be compliance. There's more now than there's ever been, and that ain't going to change anytime soon. But we need to be really efficient at it, and to be really efficient at it, that means using these systems and processes. So there's lots and lots and lots of conversations in accounting firms, almost on a daily basis, about our systems and processes, what's working, what isn't working. How can we make it more efficient? How can we make it more effective? How can we deliver better as far as the clients are concerned? How can we make it these
Mm.
systems processes more rewarding to us? Go back to what I said at the start, though, about there's a human side to this too. And Kim and I were on a webinar a few weeks back now, and Kim started talking about the inner, and this was a webinar with accountants. Kim started talking about the inner systems and processes, and I went, whoa, 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 whoa. You know, we need to explore this because as accountants, we can struggle to understand the emotional side of what we do, the mental side of what we do. You know, we've touched on habits and confidence and procrastination and all that sort of stuff. But Kim, you're telling me that the stuff that we're really good at, the systems and processes, that's in here as well. So why are we not using that to our advantage? And that's where this conversation's come from. Yeah, how do we, what, Kim, what do you mean by internal systems and processes? And how can we
Yeah.
how can we do the accountant thing with them of get on top of them and make them work really well for us?
And I have to say, I mean, I have no idea where it came from. It was just like, wow. I mean, I've been doing this for some years, and it was really, it was an eye opener for me as well. In fact, so much so I was on the phone to you afterwards. It's like, oh my gosh, where did that come from?
Well, I've made a
And I
career out
think
of doing that, so that's that's absolutely fine.
awesome. I was clearly in flow. But I think when I talk about the inner systems and processes, when I thought about processes, it's the habits. We've got habits of doing, of thinking, and of being, basically, and certainly our emotional content. And those habits are a process. And if anybody listened to the last episode where we were talking about the reptilian brain, it does love a process because the habit of process is the thing that keeps us safe. It knows what to do and when to do it. And you know, in your business, probably there are some processes you don't even need to think about. They are so ingrained in you that you know exactly what to do and when to do it. So, you know, I don't know all your processes, but I do know the ones that you have to do in terms of the bookkeeping element. You have to, you know, get the receipts, sort them, put them into the software, etc. So there is a process that you follow. When you're coming to do the accounts, there are certain things that you'll pull together to come up with your profit and loss, and then the management reporting that you're doing. So there's lots of processes, but that's part of a system, isn't it? And when you start to think of it as a system, you can also think about our internal systems. The habits are doing something within our system. So when we're really stressed for whatever reason, it's playing havoc with our other systems, breathing, our blood flow, our digestion. I eat when I get stressed. Another story. But do you know what I mean? So you're messing with your internal systems, and I just wonder how much we could take from what you know on your external processes and systems to shine a light on your internal ones. And I don't know, Richard, whether you can help me here because it would really help me explain it even better. So the processes are the steps you take, and the systems are everything around it that's being impacted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would go with that. And I think when um, I guess there's two scenarios within an accounting or a bookkeeping firm. The first one is putting the system in place in the first place. You know, where do we need a system and what system do we need? And I think that's very much driven by what are we trying to achieve here, and then what are the steps that we need to take to achieve it, and then sort of the processes are then so that the processes are then linking those steps together, and the system and that creates that system. But then we have the second area as well, which is we have a system, but it's not working as well as we want it to be working. So
Mm,
therefore, what do we do to improve that? Yeah, and so there's almost like a creation side and an improvement side of things. And when you look at, I think to some extent the creation one is the easier one because when you're first designing a system, or when you're first recognizing that you need a system and you're going shopping for one, it's a digital system, then okay, there are issues around the decision making process, and we will cover that in a later podcast. But yeah, the things like procrastination and whatever, that's an
Mm,
issue. But in terms of the system itself, it isn't that difficult to go, okay, well, this is what we're trying to achieve. This is where we want to end up. This is why we need a system. And these are the steps that we need to process. That bit is relatively easy. Um, and then you either create that or you go and buy it or you combine the two. The challenge at that point is that, hang on, we're putting in place something new. And therefore, everything that we've said, I think it was in the very first podcast about people don't like change. Right. So
mm,
now we've got a human issue to a system that we've created. We've created a great system, but there's a human issue about how do we get people to engage with it? How do we get people to adapt it and adopt it? The other issue with the existing systems, invariably when a system fails, okay, sometimes it can fail because there's been a failure in the system. The software has failed, or there's something's changed and we've not adapted one of the checklists, for instance, something like that. You can get those sort of things. But the reality is, most of the time, a system doesn't perform as well as it should do because the humans don't use it. Either because we haven't trained them properly, or because they don't understand why, or they're not engaged with it, or that example you said about they're short of time, therefore they try and cut a few steps. I was in a
mm,
conversation yesterday with some directors where they were saying, the big problem is that people simply don't keep it up to date. They do their actions, but they don't sign it off. And so that you get to the end, and because the director's the one at the end, the director ends up signing all the systems off, bring it up to date. It's like, okay, right, that's not how it's supposed to work. But the system's there, the system's fine. The system's invested, they
mm.
spend money each month on it, but people aren't using it properly. Hardworking, loyal, smart, intelligent people aren't using it properly. So the failure, we will complain about the tangible system, the money, the one that we've created, the one we've invested time and money in, the one that we've done the training on, and the
Yeah.
rest of it. But actually, it's this stuff here. How do we get people to properly utilize the system? They don't. People, no one. It's very rare someone's deliberately trying to sabotage the system, but it's acts of sabotage that are happening because it's not being utilized properly.
Mm.
And so it's you know you've touched on habits there, and I think that is where this conversation originally came from. That once it becomes a habit to take that step, then it generally gets done. But it's that journey to it becoming a habit, particularly if they've got a competing habit for how they used to do it. And I think that's where this
Yes.
what how do so we need to, if we think about what I liked about what you said on that previous webinar was, hang on, if we start to think about it internally as a system as well as externally as a system, does that help us in recognizing how we can address these failings? Does it help us in recognizing how we change the habit, or how we change the thinking, or how we get better engagement?
Mm. It's a very good question. And for me, the systems internally are the ones that will make or break it almost, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the systems and the habits are very closely aligned in our inner world, just as they are in the external world. Because the system is only as good as the parts that it's made up of, the different processes that brings it to. And you're right, invariably the system itself is fine. It's the human element that can throw it all into a bit of chaos. People adopting it, as you say, or just adapting to it. And yeah, you're right. If there is something else that seems easier, they're going to use that. I don't know if I used it in the webinar, but certainly the analogy I've used before is the idea of two kings, just to help understand how the brain's working, is that they live on opposite sides of this massive forest, and they've got good trade relations, so there's lots of toing and froing from both kingdoms to each other, and the road is clear. There's no overgrowth, there's no um, you know uh, uh, pits for the tires to get struck in and all that. So it's perfect. but then they fall out. And then one king makes another trade pact with another king who lives in a different direction through the forest, and they've got to create a new pathway. So to do that, they've got to cut back the undergrowth. They've got to, keep riding that track to make sure that the road becomes roadworthy. They've got to make sure that the trees are cut down. Da, da, da. There's a lot of effort in it. And here is the thing: it's so much easier to go down the other one. So when you come across an obstacle, there's a tree in the way, or there's a pothole, or there's just too much undergrowth to go through. Just easy to go. Let's go that way and go off down the route you're always used to. So when it comes to human behavior with your external systems and processes, they will resist because the old way seems easier, and it's easier because it's known. They understand it, it's comforting, and it feels like it's quicker. Very often, when you think about delegating, there's a similar issue going on there as well. People sometimes don't want to delegate because they can do it quicker themselves, just easier. But what they're not looking at is the longer term benefit rather than the right now benefit. So for me, I think, you're right, the human element is important, and looking at the habit that's going to support it, the changing, so they adopt to these new systems and processes. Because I've heard of people who've got them, they've bought them and they're sat on the shelf. Actually, I've
Oh
done
yeah,
that myself.
yeah, all the time.
I've done it
I mean,
myself. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just
how
too
do we?
complicated, so
Yeah, it is, and it's this sense that you've almost got to start again. We okay,
yes.
this system has its faults, but we know it. Yeah, yeah, but I've got to start again. How how do we go about it? I mean, at the moment, if I follow a typical journey at the moment where
Yeah.
a firm has got, let's take their practice management system. And the firm has got a practice management system. It's a good system. It ticks all the boxes. It's tried and tested. They've bought it. They've bought the right one. They've bought it for the right reasons. But it's not complete. People don't update it. Some people use it, some people don't. So you can't trust the information that's in there. And consequently, it's starting to fall out of use. And I come along to the
Mm.
directors and say, okay, let's talk about your systems. And they'll tell me you've got this system. And I'll go, right, and how are you using that? And go, well, we're not really using it because it doesn't do this, people don't do this. And I'll go, right, well, clearly, given what you're trying to achieve with your firm, it's really important that people do use this. So we need to engage the team, and we'll do a team day and we'll talk to the team about the benefits of it and why it works and the impact on clients and how it makes life easier and all the rest of it. And sometimes that works, but in a lot of cases, more people will start to use it, but you'll still get some who don't. So we sit down with the directors again and we have another conversation. They'll go, well, it's better, but we still can't trust it. It still doesn't work. I'll go, in that case, we need to toughen up a bit. We need to mandate it. We need to stand in front of the team and say, this is the system, this is what you use, and you're in trouble with me if you don't. And we talked last time, didn't
Oh,
we, about fear factor?
yes. I
It's
was just
almost
about to
like,
say, having to come down with the whole stick thing rather than the
yeah,
carrot.
we've tried the good cop bit. We've tried to enthuse them and engage them, and some have bought into it, but some haven't. So now we're going to do the bad cop bit. We're going to go, this is what we're doing as a firm. And I do a session where I present like this, and we put all of the goals, the actions of the firm on a board, and I talk to the team and go, look, just be clear, this is what we are doing. This is not an option. This is what the next 12 months, 2 years, whatever it is, looks like. This is what we are doing as a firm. We are not veering from this path. Now, this might sound like a threat. It's not meant to be, but it sounds like a threat. And every time I walk away, I'm thinking, yeah, it was a threat. Yeah, because you go, so if you engage, the quicker you engage in this, the easier it is for everybody, right? If you don't engage with it, it's going to become increasingly hard for you because we're increasingly going to be coming to you and going, no, 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 you need to do this. So you need to think about this. And that bit sounds like a threat because sort of it is a threat. I cover it
Mm.
by saying it's the reality. I'm just being open and honest here, but this is what the firm's doing because they need to. If we want to achieve our vision, we have to use this software. And but that's not I'm not comfortable with that way. I think last time when we
Mm.
talked about using fear, I said I was prepared to use fear with clients as long as I think the outcome's the right thing. And this fits into that category. But I'd sooner just be positive and have people going, "Oh yeah, we're all with you, Richard. This is an amazing thing to do." I just know
But
I've been
people are
around long
different,
enough.
aren't they?
Yeah.
They're going to
But
be they're going to
is
be
there
motivated by different things.
is that right? Is it right to try the good cop, bad cop? Is there a am I being either naive in thinking that people will, should we just start firing people from day one? Or
Oh no, no,
is
no, 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 no. No, no,
or
no, 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 no.
is there a is am I just not being smart? Is there am I being old
Yeah.
fashioned in a way by going, okay, I want to do it the nice way, but I'll do it the hard way if I have to.
I think there's a balance there. I think you're absolutely right. To start with the carrot. This is give them the vision. Why are we introducing this system, or why are we reintroducing it? It's not worked in the past, but we've got to now because, and give them some very strong reasons why that was the case. Then make sure, and I remember this from a previous life where if they were introducing something different, there was a what do they call it? I can't remember what they called it, but it was something like a specialist, the person who was responsible, and it was their job to make sure everybody did it. Now, what will happen is you will get, though, particularly if it's somebody of influence, by the way, if you've got somebody who's a bit of a leader in the team, pick them because people will follow and do it. You will still get those who are not having it. And that's where the stick is important, I think. So I'm all for the favour of the stick for those who are just not having it. And then you have to come down on them a bit harder, I think. You've got to be maybe putting measures in place. How do you know they're using it? And are they using it proper? I don't know. That could mean a little bit of an overhead. But if it means converting them, then it's worth it. But I would always, with those people, understand what their reticence is. They may not be as computer literate, for example. I don't know. I sometimes have that problem anyway, but it could be that they're not computer literate. Maybe that they've got so much work on they can't do it. If you understand what's behind the resistance, you can lower that for them so that they can actually start to swing around and do it. So they're facilitated through it. And quite frankly, if you have, and this is going to be 0.001% of the population who absolutely refuse, they have a choice, don't they? And that's still their choice. It might not be the right choice for the business or them, but it's a choice. They either do or don't. But that's it. So I think it's a phased approach. You have to tackle the biggest number and get a leader to do that, the person who is listened to and heard. And it won't be a manager necessarily. Just beware.
Yeah.
It's just somebody that everybody turns to when they've got a problem. Get them to encourage them to use it and monitor it. I think this is the other thing. We don't monitor. We just expect people to just do it. You can't. You're gonna have to monitor them till you know they're doing it. And then you can turn around and let go. But I had an accountant when I worked in Motorola tell me that when I was checking people's work. So we had a very big new team. And she said, check them all, she said, until you're happy and satisfied that they're getting no more than 10% wrong. And she said, those who are getting over 10%, you check them. So I thought that was pretty sensible advice to
Mm.
me. So, and this is the same sort of thing. Check till then you know they're doing it, and then look at the ones who are not doing it, find out why, be nice to them, find out what their resistance is, help them facilitate them, and then hopefully you'll start to see them improving and you using it. And then those who are really not having it, there's a difficult conversation, shall we say?
Yeah, I think have you come across Roger's Law of Diffusion? That the
No,
normal
please tell
curve.
me.
Okay, so essentially this is that version of the normal curve where you've got in this version of it, you have five groups. You have your innovators right at the start, your ideas people, and
Oh,
that's
okay.
typically 2.5% of the population. You've then got your early adopters, the people who go, like that idea, I'm going to do it. Yeah. And again, that's 15% roughly. Then you're into the bell of the curve, and you've got your early majority who will do it because they've seen these early adopters doing it and go, okay, that works. And then you've got the rest who will then sort of follow on, and ultimately you've got your laggards who, whatever we do, unless we make it law, they're not going to do it. Yeah, and even then
No.
they'll do it begrudgingly. And the theory of this is that you focus not so, whilst the we all want to get the majority to use it. We all want to go into our team meeting and go, guys, this is what we're all doing. Right. But the
Mm.
reality is they split into these two camps generally, those who will do it when they see somebody else doing it effectively, and those who will do it because everybody else is doing it. Right? So therefore, what we should do is focus on these early adopters. Like you just said there, find the people in the firm who
Yeah.
will engage. And rather than worrying about those who still aren't, focus on supporting those who do engage so that they become more visible, they become louder, and more people go,
Mm.
okay, I can see now how this works. That guy's having an easier day than me now because they are following this system. So
Yeah.
I guess that's a smarter way of approaching it. And this, me
Mm.
jumping to the end and going, this is a threat. I suppose that's when I'm addressing the laggards and everybody else
You are.
as well. But I think it does highlight that when we're putting a new system in place externally, we need to be thinking about who is going to be using this system. And
Indeed.
rather than treating them as a herd, treating them as a one group and giving them one training session, right, and saying, right, go ahead and do it, we need to be a bit more selective about who is our champion going to be, for instance, and who is going to roll this out and who's going to help them and who's going to be doing the training to then start getting this. See it more of a rather, one of the issues with systems and processes externally is you can switch them on. You can plug it in and switch it on. Yeah, that rarely works with
Mm.
people, does it? Yeah, with people,
No.
it's just, we've got to go, okay, right, I'm going to be switching it on down the line here, but I need to be warming things up and doing it right. So when we're doing when we're putting our external systems in place, we need to be thinking more about how am I going to tap into the internal systems? How am I going to get people
Yeah.
buying in and recognizing that they're going to buy in at different points? That end game is still the
I,
same.
I
End game is still we're
yeah.
doing this, but it's a different approach in, isn't it?
I think so. And I think that ties in with the idea of, you've got to make it a habit. And in order to do that, they've got to buy into it. And you buy
Yeah.
into it in a way that works for them, but works for the business as well. Because the more that can adopt it, you can start to demonstrate the information that you're getting and how valuable that is if for whatever reason. So yes, I like that. And the internal systems of people, because they will, some people will be very resistant for whatever reason, because we've always done it this way, it's always worked. Yeah, understanding
Well,
that you
one thing you'll
may have
find,
done it.
you're particularly with progressive firms, and my guess is, most of the people watching and listening to this are progressively minded. That's why they're listening to this. But one thing that you'll have, and I'm definitely guilty of this, is that we have ideas. Yeah, we want our firm to move forward. We want our firm to be great. So we have these ideas.
Mm,
So we come to the team and go, guys, I've had a great idea. We're going to do this system. We're going to do this service. We're going to do this, do that. But because I've not really thought it through, because I've not got a system in place behind it that makes it sustainable, because I've not fully engaged the team, then after a period of time, the idea drops off. Right. And
yeah.
I don't go to the team formally and go, actually, this is what's happened and this is why it's not worked. So we're closing the door. It just disappears. It just stops being used. So the team become used to you coming to them and go, I've had a great idea. And some of the team will go, brilliant, let's do it. Most of the team will go, okay, well, let's just stand back for a bit and let's see what happens. And of course, because they do
Mm,
that, nothing happens. And I think we need to recognize that as well. It's not just about the habits of the individuals or the habits of us. It's because, going back to this point that invariably I can point a finger to the person at the top and go, well, it's your fault. I think this is an example, and it's for all the right reasons. It's we're doing these things because we want to be better, but we've just
mm,
gone about it the wrong way and sort of and ended up shooting ourselves in the foot. So I think it's important that when we do introduce new things to the team in particular and to clients, that we are aware that we might have a bit of a track record that we need to factor into this as well. Even to the
yes.
extent of
Yeah.
saying to the team, hands up, I know I've done this before, this is why this one's going to be, recognize our
Mm,
own weakness, our own failing, if you like.
yes, absolutely. And the more that you can engage the team in what you're trying to achieve, and they have the right the psychological safety, as we've talked about somewhere else, the psychological safety to say something that does help. It's just about warming them up because remember habits, they've had habits of the old processes and systems, which may or may not have been manual, and now they've got to do this. And it just feels like another thing on the list to do. So it's about recognizing that's what you've got to get through. Oh, I'm sure this topic needs to come back up the table because it sounds like there's a lot more that we could have covered in that time, but we are sort of running out of time, or if not, we've overcome. So um thank you, Richard. I mean, that was really insightful, and I appreciate you sharing your wisdom there. It was really, really interesting to see. So I know rule three, I've changed it. So I'm going to say it, and then you can just let me know what you think. Sometimes the stick is the only approach. No? Yes?
Yeah, I'll
That
go
was a
with
bit
that.
different.
You make me
Yeah?
feel better about my team sessions now. I,
Well, because it is, isn't it? Because, some people won't change unless you're doing something. So,
yeah, and I think we, again, I don't want to drift into a different topic, but you have to treat the people around you like adults. You know,
yes.
and sometimes we have to be prepared to have an adult conversation. As long as you are honest and open, hey, look, in life sometimes we have to have difficult conversations. I think
Yes.
that
That's,
for me, the thing for people to take away from this meeting is, when you're looking at your external systems and processes, be they new ones or existing ones, think about the human interactions. Don't just think about what's tangibly in front of you. Think about the people bits and what we can do to make those more effective, because invariably they are the weak links in the chain.
oh, yeah, perfect. Well, thank you, Richard. Brilliant session. As I say, I think we could have gone on for a lot longer. Another session, another time. A big thank you. And thank you to our listeners. I hope that was really useful. As I say, we'll come back to some of that another time. I think our next one is going to be on time in more ways than one. So please do join us again. And thank you so much.